How's everybody doing today? I feel like I need to give like a dad joke or something after the last ones, but I don't know any, so I pass. How's everybody doing today? Good. Doing good? That's good. Well, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Lions Club, for the opportunity to come and speak to you wonderful people today about Coho, and then specifically about our housing development, Hope Village. And our organization is simply to act as a provocateur. We want to provoke people to hope. We want to provoke people to live out what it means to be loved, to be kind, and to be generous. And we seek to do that in creative, passionate, and diligent ways, because we want to bring together a host of different people around the table, regardless of their economic situation, regardless of their ethnic situation, regardless of their political affiliation, what are all these divisions. We want to bring people together so that they can recognize, one, that we're all made in the image and likeness of God when we look past all of these social distinctions, but then two, also recognize that everybody has something to bring to the table. That regardless of your age, your educational background, whether you live in West Conway, up on the hill, or in Oakwood, on the east side of the tracks, everybody has something to bring to the table. And so in 2007, my family, we moved here from out of the military. I was in active duty, and we moved here just simply to be here for 2 years because I was going back on active duty to finish my time to be a chaplain, and was coming home from Little Rock, and the Lord spoke to my heart to make a right on Robbins, and back there was this trailer park, Oakwood Trailer Park, aka Chateau, and was supposed to go back there and do ministry. So me, my wife, and our kids at the time, they were little itty bitty. Now one is 22, one is 20, and the other is 19. So they're all grown up and gone. Empty nesters, me and my wife. So we went out there with some, I know, right? Yeah, still an adjustment. We took some folding chairs and a small sound system, and we just started ministry out in that trailer park. And then in 2009, we became organized as a nonprofit, and our focus is threefold. One is education, and so we have an after-school initiative called Coho Academy. Then we have a housing initiative that focuses on transitional housing, homeless prevention, and then Hope Village, and then community development as well. And so it started in a trailer park, and then we spread out to 2 other different communities here in Conway, and then with a partnership through UCA, now we do work down in South Arkansas, the small city of 400 some odd people called Mitchellville, and in Northeast Arkansas in a small area called Corning, Arkansas. And so what started out as simply just making a right and just simply seeking to tell people about the beauty and the majesty of Jesus Christ, 14 years later, this coming September, we've become this thing, as I like to call it. So it's awesome. So 4 thoughts I want to call to your attention about the homeless and who we serve. 1 is that the homeless, the poor, the middle, the upper income of our city, we all possess an unchangeable dignity and worth. Each and every one of us has been brought up out of the ground, and from my perspective, God breathed life into us. That's what it said in Genesis. The breath of life was put into each man and woman before any of these distinctions, before any money that you had, because essentially all of us came out of the ground poor. Adam had nothing. Eve had nothing. But then God gave them the land and these animals to be good stewards over, to emulate what was already existing in the relationship between the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. But even if you don't believe in all that, what doesn't change is that each and every one of us have been made in the image and likeness of God. We're not accidents. So since we're not accidents, and since we've been made to reflect God, that means we have purpose. That means we have the capacity to be in a relationship. That means we have the capacity to love. We have the capacity to be kind, and we have the capacity to be generous. That doesn't happen accidentally. That is because we reflect a supreme personality. So that's why you go out and you find a significant other and you get married. That's why you'll develop a lifetime together and get a house and raise kids and have grandkids and aunts and uncles and grandparents and so on and so forth. Why? Because we're only reflecting what is within us. And we've been made in the image and likeness of God. And that is found whether you live in Oakwood or Glen Echo or on South Ash or on Salem, near the country club, Centennial, whether you serve in the mayor's office or you're sitting out there on the street corner with a sign saying, hey, I need help. Each and every one of us are tied together. We're family. Second thing I would have you to be mindful of is this, is that since we are family, that we should be seeking the common good of our family members or our neighbors. All of us have something to offer. All of us have something to contribute to benefit somebody else or a family or a community. And the beautiful thing about it is that since we reflect a free God, that he's made us in freedom, that we should look at our community, look at our city, and be like, who is it that I can interact with freely? I don't want to be forced to do it. I don't want to be coerced to do it. I don't have a gun put to my head. I don't want to be made to feel guilty or in shame. But who is it that I see at some point in my life that I can come alongside and freely say, hey, you know what? I see what's going on. This is what I can bring to the table. I can't do everything, but there's one thing I can do. And the reason that we do that is that we're seeking the common good. Now, we just celebrated Martin Luther King yesterday, and one of the things that he said was, what impacts one directly impacts all indirectly. So what that then means also is this, is that if I'm doing good to somebody directly, that means that's doing good to somebody else indirectly. It is to our benefit to help other people. One, because it reflects that we've been made in the image and likeness of God, but two, it is our recognition that that person that is sitting across the table from me, or that person that is standing on that street corner, or that person that is coming to the office looking for some type of help, that is my opportunity to do good, not only for him or her, but also to myself. So, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Of all that, I like that one, the pursuit of happiness. Well, my happiness is not your happiness. My happiness is my family, building Star Wars Legos, collecting comic books, reading and writing. And typically like being by myself. That's my happiness. Now, your happiness may be like construction, going hunting, all that, right? It's Arkansas, right? When duck hunting season comes along, like, woo, that's somebody's happiness. That's not my happiness. But that pursuit of happiness, how does that happen? When we recognize that in every person that they've been made in the image and likeness of God, that when we recognize that we want to do the common good for somebody, that creates an opportunity for that individual or family to pursue their happiness. Not for me to put on them what I think their happiness should be, but so I could create an opportunity so they could pursue their happiness. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing about being a human being. That's a beautiful thing about being an American, that each one of us gets to what? Pursue our happiness, and not at the expense of somebody else. But imagine pursuing happiness because someone has come alongside me. They recognize, hey, I'm lacking this. And that individual, they helped me. So education can be a very critical tool to help identify and break down stereotypes about the homeless. And that's one of the things we do. We use what is called the Unseen campaign. And what we seek to do is communicate to people through story, through images, social media, campaigns. These are homeless men and women in our city and county. 964 as of last year. We do a point-in-time count at the end of January. We'll be getting ready to do that. 964. The majority of those are children. And then you count those that are staying in the shelters and those here in town, ours, the Coho Hope Home, the Bethlehem House, their transitional house, and then those men and women who stay at the warming station right now that is going on, run by the Conway Ministry Center. But either way, 964 individuals that we counted last year who are experiencing some form of homelessness. And they have stories. They have reasons why they ended up in that situation. And it's not drugs, primarily, but it's a health reason. Medical bills, divorce, abuse. Those are primarily the reasons why people end up on the street. Then you have mental illness as well. And then as a consequence, how people seek to deal with those primary problems, they turn to things, alcohol, drugs, so on and so forth. If I may, do we not all turn to something to deal with our pain? Have we not at some point in our life, or known somebody in our life, that have turned to something destructive, detrimental to their health, to deal with their pain? And so even those men and women that you may see out on the street on Oak and Harkrider or down headed towards Target at the 40 freeway overpass, those could be men and women who are seeking to deal with their pain. Now, this does not absolve the fact that there are individuals out there who take advantage, because in any group, you're going to have somebody that's going to take advantage. Am I right? In any large group, you're going to have somebody that's not on the up and up. But those few should not prevent us from being loved, kind, and generous to those who actually need it. Imagine being judged off of that one action that you did. And that one negative action that you did prevented you from getting the help that you actually needed. So education is necessary to help in serving the homeless. Employment also is helpful in serving the homeless. So when the Supreme Court said essentially that it was okay for persons to panhandle, you saw an explosion of individuals here in Conway, down in Little Rock, standing out on street corners, right? And so when you drive down Oak Street and you see any of these individuals, the question becomes how I can help this individual. Without a doubt, the single most helpful thing for an individual who is homeless or who is experiencing poverty is the opportunity to have a job and to earn money so that that income can be used to improve his or her situation. That's the single most effective thing that can happen. Yes, you can give them $1, but they'll still be back out there again. Yes, you could give them some food or a gift card, and all those are good things. But the single most effective thing to move a person from a homeless situation into a position in which they are stable is that they have the opportunity to work. So to improve the economic situation of an individual is necessary. So at Coho, we have this thing called 10 Jobs in the Coho Small Market. And these are two different opportunities where individuals who live in the Oakwood community or people that come through where they can earn money to develop their work skills. And so at Coho 10 Jobs, we partner with landlords, lawn care, things like that, and we'll go through and we'll clean out apartments so that landlords can get set up for their next renter. Or if people need leaves raked, trash hauled away. We'll do those things as well. And then with the Coho Small Market, this came out of last year with the pandemic, and it started with partnering with the Conway Public Schools and delivering food boxes to the kids because they were out of school. And then Nabholz Construction, they donated to us a work trailer and got that retrofitted, got cool little painting and murals all over it. And we received a grant from Arkansas Hunger Alliance and from the United Way to purchase fresh meats, diapers, feminine products, things like that, to be able to provide to individuals that needed it. And then what we tied to that was a workforce opportunity for individuals that they can come and they can volunteer at the Coho Small Market as a way to not only to receive, but also to give back. And then that work experience that they did, the hours that was collected, they would get a resume, get a reference, so they could go and find work if they lost their job. What is ways to address homelessness and poverty? Work. Work. And then finally, housing. So in our city, to address homelessness, it's work, but also to provide housing. And as I stated, as far as sheltering goes, here in the city of Conway, Bethlehem House has a transitional house. We have a transitional house for men. As far as emergency shelter would go, it would fall under the Conway Ministry Center. And so at our Hope Home, what we seek to do is we bring men in for a period of 15 to 18 months, and they can live at the house. 30 days when they move in, they just get settled. One of the stories I tell is if you have somebody who's been sleeping wherever, in the wooded area next to Central Landing, or wherever else here in town, and they move into a place where they got a bed, we've had guys that still sleep on the floor before they sleep in the bed, because that's what they've known. So even with the bed staying right there, they feel comfortable sleeping on the floor. And so we give individuals that time to get adjusted to a new living situation, but then also rules. Because up to that point, they've been living on their own rules. But when you move into like the Hope Home or even like Bethlehem House, there are rules for a host of reasons, right? You got to be a good steward over your resources. You got to look out for the other persons that are staying there. And so that 30-day period that we offer is that time for those men to get acclimatized to their new living situation. And then after that, they're required to find work. And so they can find work at a local industry here in town or through 10 jobs. They can work that way. And then their stay there, they're required to save 50% of their money. Then 10% goes back into the house, and then the other 40% is used to address any type of the personal things they may have. Some have fines that they have to pay. Others have worked to get their driver's licenses back, so on and so forth. And the reason we have the savings set up is so that when these men graduate from the program, they have a nest egg, if you will, to begin to start their new life, right? In 2017, after two different organizations sought to get approval to open up emergency shelters here in town, I went to Rick Soul over here and talked to him about the possibility of doing something different for housing for the homeless. And he and I sketched some ideas, and we came up with the idea of Hope Village. And September 2017, at our 10-year anniversary for the City of Hope Outreach, I announced that we was going to do this housing development project. And the goal is to provide 10 small homes, 5 one-bedroom and 5 two-bedrooms, to address homelessness for individuals and families, veterans homelessness, and low-income housing. And so, as I stated, I'm a veteran, and so 2 of those houses will be for veterans. 6 of those houses will be for individuals who have experienced homelessness or their families. 1 house will be for an individual, and then another house for a family, and then 1 more house will be for an on-site case manager. And this will be rental property where these individuals can stay for a minimum of 2 years. Building off what we do at the Hope Home, be required to save money, give back to the community in which they are living to participate in, and then continue to set them on a road to the pursuit of their own happiness. And in 2018, we purchased the land, which is on Robbins. And so we have our property cross street from Independent Living Services, just to orient people, Robbins and Harkrider. So we have our main building, and then the property is in the middle, and then our Hope Home is right next door, and then there's a trailer park further east. And currently we've raised $187,000. Construction is going to be done by Greg Lasker of Lifestyle Homes. We have 3 homes spoken for, with 6 to go. Our goal is to begin building this year, pending some final approval by the city, some drainage type things that we got to work out, and Craft and Toll. They've been donating some work to help with that as well. We've had significant donors from Adcock Foundation, Sunderland Foundation, First United Methodist Church, and others. So we would ask for you to have an imagination with Coho. Business owners, imagine how your entity, regardless of size, can participate, providing employment opportunities for homeless men and women. There is an untapped potential of skill and intelligence waiting to be cultivated. I would say to landlords and property owners, imagine how they could use their unused property and how it can be used to shelter individuals and families. Is it possible for us to imagine our city governments, our nonprofits, landowners, business owners cooperating together towards having a maximum number of persons under a roof? Imagine Lions Club joining with Coho to see Hope Village become a reality, the Lions House, something to consider. This is a moral imagination that can occur in so many different ways if we are willing. So I hope for this year, so 2020 offered us this persistent message of being in this together and looking out for the vulnerable. So with love, kindness, and generosity, we can do the same with Coho. Love because we now recognize our common humanity. Kindness because we recognize we have the capacity to speak and treat one another with empathy. And finally, in the activity of generosity, we can combine love and kindness to be a blessing to others in a multitude of ways. Thank you very much. What questions do you have?
Do you have a plan for those who don't have a high school diploma?
Do I have to get one? Our only plan, ma'am, is to direct them to the Adult Education Center. One of the things I'm firm about is if somebody's doing something well in the city, is not reduplicate the wheel, but make sure people get over there and get what I believe would be the most appropriate and effective means to whatever their needs. So in that regard, we work with Adult Ed Center before to get people there, but also to use our computer center that we have at Coho as an offsite for individuals who can't make it for whatever reason to the adult center. So, but that's always in consideration. Yes, ma'am.
I got a couple of questions.
Yes.
First of all, did you go visit an area that has something similar to this setup?
Yes. Yes. So we went to me and my director for the Hope Village, Ray Hewitt. We went up to Eureka Springs, and they have something up there called Echo Village, and they built 12 small homes up there. And so we went up there to just pick their brain, learn from their approach. Also, there's a place in Austin, Texas as well, that has done something similar. And then one other place in Portland. And so talking with those individuals, everybody's got similarity as far as the strategy they're using is housing first, right? And using small homes, all right? from there, everybody's got a different approach as to as far as accountability, as far as responsibilities for those individuals that are staying at the place where they're at and how long they'll stay there, okay? I have just sought to, what we've done at the Hope Home and we're seeking to expand here at Hope Village and how we have worked with the men that stay at the Hope Home, they responded well to that because it's a mix of, it's not our goals, it's your goals, right? And so when my case manager at the Hope Home sits down with those men each month, it is, okay, you've laid out these goals, right? And so we are working with you to achieve your goals. Again, it's a pursuit of your happiness, not necessarily co-host happiness or me trying to impose on you what it is you want, because with 6 men staying in that house, that's 6 different needs. 6 different past experiences, 6 different things that need to be addressed. Like, for instance, the guys that stay at the house, every guy wanted, for whatever reason, I don't know how it happened, every guy had their license suspended, all right? It was in the house. They saved them, they worked, they saved the money, they paid off their fines to get their driver's license. Then they turned around and worked, and each of them bought their own car, so that they could get to work on their own, so that we don't have to take them there anymore. That's that stuff that makes me happy. Like, there's that independence there. They recognize what they needed to do to get to where they want to be, right? And so cycling back around to your original question, yes, we visited different places, talked to people who've been doing it for a while, and then from there, contextualize it to where we're at and what's going to be necessary.
I'm excited that you got Greg Glasper on board. He does some pretty stuff.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
He's does some wonderful stuff.
Yeah.
What is, if someone wanted to sponsor a house, what's the amount?
All righty. Are you the decision maker in this place? So I brought this for y'all. Yeah, so it's a handy dandy pretty marketing thing. All right, so it lays out everything for the Lions Club.
I was just kind of curious
Yep.
how y'all are
Yep.
doing that.
And I'm gonna give y'all the frequently asked questions too. All right, so
I'll quit asking.
because I heard board meeting coming up at some point. Yes, so all that in there lays out sponsorship levels for a house. $50,000 gets you all the stuff. And then all the way down to $1,000. And, you know, it's a capital campaign, so whatever sponsorship that you would consider, right, you would get all of that in there. Whether as a group or if you want to do something individually as well, all of that is laid out in there.
What did you have to get it zoned to be able to do this?
It was zoned a...
Or did they have to come up with something to be able to let you do this?
Yeah, so it's zoned multi-family.
Multi-unit?
Yeah, because
Of the size and density?
the size and density, but also I think with the trailer park being there, that whole area is actually zoned in industrial. The
Yeah, because
actual
they went
zoning.
To the batch plant and
Yeah.
the city street department.
Yeah,
I grew up, the Chateau,
Yeah.
Chateau, that's just, we didn't go down the Chateau.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have done a lot to turn that around.
yeah. So it's hard work. You got to be in for the long game. You got to be in for the long game. Any other questions?
You said minimum of 2 years?
Yes.
The minimum they have to stay is 2 years.
Yeah.
Where'd you come up with that number?
So from the
That was my last question.
housing situation that we've got right now with the guys, on average, those guys are staying there a year. Some move out to 15 months, right? So we've had a kind of a back and forth, and just based off of the data and experience, since we've been doing the Hope Home, we've been doing the Hope Home since 2012. As far as somebody renting and wanting to get everything developed, right? If you need to go beyond that, right, then okay, fine. But stay here for 2 years so you can get settled, stable, to then move on to the next iteration in life. Because still at the end of the day, it's a small home. It's 490 and 640 square feet. 490 for the 1 bedroom, 640 for the 2 bedroom. So unless you're an individual who's like what's called a minimalist nowadays, right? People are wanting to move to more space for whatever reason. And yeah, so that's the answer to that question. Yeah.
Do you have a specific age of guys that, when we did Homeless Connect, we were talking about they're not always on drugs or they're not always
Right.
on alcohol. I ran into a young man and just asked him how he got where he was.
Mm-hmm.
And he came out to his parents.
Okay.
And they kicked him out. And
Yeah.
he was 15.
Mm.
And he couldn't get a job. I mean, it's just sad when you see he didn't have an adult
Right.
to take care of him. Is there like a specific age or?
Yeah, so we take adults, so 18 or over. For minors, situations like that, I mean, we have to connect them to the appropriate agency to deal with a minor. I've had 2 situations like that specifically. Yeah, one was well, 2 individuals. One situation like that. A second, he experienced domestic abuse from his partner, and it was pretty bad. And so yeah, I know those things to deal with. But as far as age, 18, and then the other thing is this: we look at who's already existing in the house as well. We take all of these things into consideration as well. And sometimes if we have a bunch of older guys, it may be good to bring like a 19-year-old in, you know, because that's a good generational thing that can happen. But we try to keep a mix. I would get nervous out of a bunch of 19-year-olds in the house just because of everything that comes with a 19-year-old anyway, you know, so.
I've seen that the Homeless Connect is not going to be as it was before.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we still doing something within the community to?
Yeah, there will be.
Services and stuff like that?
Yeah, there'll be, in place of the Homeless Connect, getting items together to be distributed. You know, with the warming station happening, there'll be an opportunity to still connect with those individuals. Also, like I mentioned earlier, we'll be doing a point in time count. And that's when that's where that hard work happens, because you got to go out and find people. And even in that midst, being able to take services out to them, to those different camps. Because there is a segment of the homeless population, they don't want housing. They like that freedom, you know, and for whatever reason, they like that freedom. And that can be hard sometimes, right? Because a person's heart can be moved like, ooh, I want you to be housed, right? And that individual is like, well, I am. I got a tent, I got my backpack, I can move where I want to. Someone described it, one guy described it to me, it's like being back in the westward expansion. And I said, okay. So then you've got to negotiate what you want versus what they want, right? And that's a difficult time. And for some of them, you know, as long as they can access like washing their clothes, you know, getting something to eat, you know, they're comfortable that way. There's others that just don't like rules, you know, and but like I said, like, you know, all of our agencies have some level of rules for a number of reasons. And so again, it's it's really listening to what it is that individual wants and seeking to work with him or her to meet that need. And it may not always align with what you or that agency wants, but you can still help. Yeah. So. Thank you very much.